For more of this kind of content you can subscribe to the channel, like the video and leave a comment. The knock was sharp. Terry shot upright in bed, heart pounding. Another knock. Noah pounding. Terry threw off the blankets and grabbed the knife he kept under his pillow. He moved fast, stepping to the door with careful, silent precision. Through the peephole he saw nothing but darkness, and then a figure. A woman, drenched, shivering. Her dark hair clung to her skin, water dripping from her chin, but that wasn't what made Terry's breath hitch. Her skin was green. The woman's dark eyes locked onto his through the glass, wide, pleading, "Help me." She gasped. "They're coming." Terry hesitated. Every survival instinct screamed at him to bolt the door and pretend he hadn't seen a damn thing, but then a sound cut through the storm. A low, mechanical hum, distant but approaching. The woman tensed, her gaze flicking toward the sky. Terry followed her line of sight through the trees. Something moved, not a plane, not a helicopter, something else. His pulse quickened. The woman turned back to him, chest rising and falling with shallow, frantic breaths. Water pulled at her feet, her lips trembling. Terror. Terry exhaled sharply. To hell with it. He unlocked the door and yanked her inside. Terry locked the door behind her. "Start talking now." She swallowed hard. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If they find me, they'll kill me." Terry's grip tightened on his knife. Her gaze flicked toward the window. The hunters outside. The hum grew louder. Terry moved fast. He shut off the lights, yanked the curtains closed, and stepped back from the window. His cabin was isolated, but that wouldn't mean a damn thing if whatever was out there had the right tech to find them. Terry kept his knife low but firm in his grip. "You got about 10 seconds to explain what the hell's going on before I throw you right back out there." She turned to him sharply. "You wouldn't. You don't know me," he said, voice steady. "Try me." She exhaled through her nose. "I'm being hunted," she said. "If they take me, I'll never be seen again." "You won't either." A shadow swept across the window, brief but unmistakable. "Keep talking," he ordered, voice lower now. The woman ran a hand through her soaked hair, pushing it back from her face. "I was born to be a soldier," she said, raised to follow orders, "but I learned things I wasn't supposed to. Now my own people want me dead." Terry frowned. "Your people, they like you." "Like me, yes, but not like me at all." Her lips pressed together. "I rebelled. No one does that and lives." The mechanical hum outside turned into a high-pitched roar. The woman's head snapped toward the window. "There scanning the area," she said, voice tight, "looking for life signs." That was all he needed to hear. "Basement now," he ordered. The woman hesitated, eyes flicking to his knife. Terry scowled. "If I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't be hiding you." Something in her expression shifted, then she nodded once. He led her through the cabin, careful to avoid the windows. The basement door was hidden behind an old bookshelf. He'd built it that way himself back when he first moved out here. A place to lay low if things ever went south. He shoved the shelf aside, yanked open the door and gestured, "Go." She hesitated just long enough to make him grit his teeth, then slipped past him into the darkness below. Terry followed, shutting the door just as a new sound cut through the storm, a sound he knew too damn well. A gun or something close to it. He reached the bottom of the stairs, pressing his back against the cool basement wall. The woman stood across from him. "They're here," she whispered. Terry didn't respond. He just listened. Heavy boots hit his porch, then a voice, cold, flat, unfamiliar. "Life signs detected." Terry closed his eyes for a fraction of a second. "Damn it." Terry met her gaze and mouthed, "Stay quiet." She nodded. A new voice spoke, "Human dwelling, standard materials, one entrance, one exit, another. Check inside, kill if necessary." The door knob rattled. The basement was soundproof, but if they searched long enough they'd find the entrance, and if that happened they were dead. The woman shifted just slightly. "I have to fight," she whispered. "If they find us they won't leave witnesses." She was right, but going in blind was suicide. His mind raced. He knew this cabin better than anyone if he could get to his weapons stash. A sudden crash from above. Something had kicked in the door. Heavy footsteps moved inside. They were searching now. His eyes flicked back to the woman. She was watching him. "All right," he muttered. "You want to fight?" A slow, dangerous smile curled on her lips. "Always." Terry nodded once. "Then we do it my way." And just like that the hunt had turned into a war. Terry moved first. The basement had a secondary exit, an old tunnel leading out into the forest, originally built for storing supplies during the harsh winters. It wasn't wide and it sure as hell wasn't comfortable, but right now it was their best shot at getting out alive. He grabbed the woman's wrist, pulling her toward the back wall. "A tunnel," she whispered. Terry didn't waste time answering. He just yanked open the floor hatch, revealing a narrow passage that sloped downward into darkness. "We get out, we circle back, we take them by surprise," he muttered. The woman hesitated, glancing Toward the basement door, footsteps echoed above them, slow, methodical. Inhumanly precise. They weren't searching in a panic, they were calculating. She exhaled sharply, then nodded. Fine. Terry went in first, crawling into the cramped space. The tunnel was damp and smelled like earth, but it was silent, insulated from the noise of the cabin above. The woman followed close behind. They moved quickly, keeping low, then a thud above, a voice colder than before. There is a concealed compartment. Terry cursed under his breath. They had seconds. He gritted his teeth and pushed forward, practically dragging himself through the last few feet of the tunnel. His fingers hit the exit hatch and he shoved it open, emerging into the pouring rain. The moment he was free, he turned back and grabbed the woman's arm, hauling her out after him. The second she was clear, the basement door exploded. A blinding blue light flashed behind them, sending debris flying. If they had still been inside, no time to think about that. Terry grabbed the woman's hand and ran. The forest was thick, the rain making it hard to see, but Terry knew these woods like the back of his hand. He pulled her along, dodging low-hanging branches and jumping over fallen logs. She moved fast, keeping pace with him despite the uneven ground behind them. A mechanical WH rose above the sound of the storm. Terry glanced over his shoulder and saw the aircraft. Hell, he muttered. The woman yanked him to the side just as a blast of blue energy tore through the trees where they had been standing a second ago. Keep moving, she snapped. No argument there. They ran harder, faster. The aircraft swooped lower. Terry's mind raced. They needed cover, real cover. Something that could block heat signatures. The river. He changed direction, tugging the woman toward the slope that led down to the water. She didn't question him, just followed. More blasts tore through the forest behind them, splitting trees in half, sending chunks of earth into the air. Then the river. Terry didn't hesitate. He grabbed the woman and jumped. The icy water swallowed them instantly. The current was strong, dragging them down stream, but it was exactly what Terry needed. He surfaced, gasping for air, then reached for her. She was already beside him, above them. The aircraft hovered, scanning. Terry pulled her under just as another blast struck the water's surface. The river carried them fast, pulling them through the rocky bends, past fallen trees and jagged boulders. Terry fought to keep control, his lungs screaming for air. Finally the current slowed. Terry surfaced, dragging in a lung full of air. The woman came up beside him, breathing hard but steady. They drifted toward the river bank where the forest was thicker, darker. Safe. Terry crawled onto solid ground, rolling onto his back, chest heaving. The woman sat up beside him, brushing wet hair from her face. She turned to him, eyes flashing. That was reckless. Terry let out a breathless laugh. You're welcome. She stared at him for a second and Terry sat up, running a hand through his soaked hair. They'll be searching the area soon. She nodded. We have to keep moving. The river had carried them far, but not far enough. They had minutes, maybe less. Terry turned to her. We need shelter. She was already scanning the area there. Terry followed her gaze and saw a break in the tree line, a rocky outcrop half hidden by overgrown brush. A cave, not perfect, but better than sitting out here waiting to be found. Move, Terry whispered. They stayed low, slipping through the undergrowth, feet sinking into damp earth. When they reached the cave, Terry ducked inside first, scanning the space. It was shallow but dry, no signs of recent animal activity. He turned back to her. It'll do. She stepped past him, pressing her back against the stone wall. We wait here until they move on, she said, voice low. Terry dropped onto a dry patch of ground, running a hand through his damp hair. Mind telling me your name now? Kira, she said. Terry nodded. Kira watched him. You shouldn't have helped me. Terry exhaled, tilting his head back against the stone. So who the hell are these guys after you? Kira crossed her arms. They're elite enforcers. My planet's rulers use them to hunt down problems. Your problem? Kira's jaw tightened to them. Terry studied her. What did you do? Her gaze flicked away. Just for a second I questioned orders. I questioned them, and that gets you killed. Her eyes darkened. On my world, questioning is treason. Terry let that sit between them for a moment. So what now? He asked. Kira exhaled slowly. We wait, then we move if we can reach high ground. I can check if they've set up scanners. Terry watched her, even now hiding in a cave, hunted by her own people. She was thinking ahead, calculating. So you're a fighter? Her gaze snaps to as you think. I need saving. Terry grinned. Nah, I think you're dangerous. You have no idea. She murmured. Kira was closer than she had been before. The cave wasn't big. It forced proximity, but this wasn't just that. The tension between them had been there since the moment she stepped into his cabin, soaking wet and wildy. It had only grown, and now there was nothing to stop it. Kira tilted her head slightly. You saved me, she said, voice quieter now. I should reward you. Terry raised a brow. That how it works where you're from. She leaned in. Not usually. Terry could see every detail of her now, her damp skin, the sharp angles of her face. Suddenly a sound. Terry stiffened. Kira did too. They both turned toward the cave mouth. Terry's grip tightened on his knife. Damn it, he muttered. Kira was already moving, inching toward the entrance. She crouched low, peering through the brush. Then she turned back, eyes flashing there. Searching, she whispered, but they don't know exactly where we are. Terry exhaled. Yet Kira nodded. Terry's jaw clenched. We sit tight, they pass, we move. She settled back beside him, her body still coiled like a spring. Minutes passed, the hum of the aircraft moved away. Terry exhaled slowly. Close. Kira nodded. The silence stretched again, but now it wasn't just tension from the hunt. Terry looked at her. What happens if they catch you? Kira met his gaze. They won't. Terry held her still. They're that bad? Kira didn't answer right away, then softly, worse. Terry exhaled. Then we make sure that doesn't happen. Kira's eyes lingered on his for a moment longer, then slowly she leaned back against the cave wall, tilting her head up. Terry did the same. Neither of them spoke for a while. Terry broke the silence first. You going to tell me the full story? Kira's gaze flicked to him sharp. What story? The one where you pissed off your entire planet so badly that they sent a kill squad after you. Her lips pressed together. She looked away. Terry waited. He had time. Finally Kira exhaled. You wouldn't understand. Try me. A pause, then slowly she spoke. My people aren't like yours, she said. We were engineered for perfection, strength, intelligence, discipline. We don't question. Terry frowned. Engineered? Kira's jaw tightened. Every Zyran is born for a purpose. Soldiers, scientists, workers, leaders. The high rulers design us for efficiency, no waste, no rebellion. Terry studied her. And you? Her gaze darkened. I was made to fight, to lead our armies, but I started asking why. Terry raised a brow. And that's a crime. Kira's expression turned hard on. Zyra, we don't have the luxury of why. We obey, we serve, we exist for the greater design. Terry let that sink in. But you rebelled. Kira exhaled. I found something I wasn't meant. To the high rulers. She hesitated, her fingers curling into fists. They aren't just governing us, they're controlling us. They manipulate our genetics, strip away emotions, suppress free will. The people think they're free, but they're not. They're programmed. Terry narrowed his eyes. And you figured that out? Kira gave a humorless laugh. I was designed to be the perfect warrior, but even they didn't predict me. Terry smirked. Yeah, you don't exactly seem like the obedient type. Her gaze met his. No, she said softly. Silence stretched between them. Terry ran a hand through his hair. So what's your plan? Kira's lips parted slightly, like she hadn't considered the question. Terry frowned. You do have a plan, right? Kira exhaled sharply. Survive. Terry scowled. That's not a plan, that's desperation. Her dark eyes flicked. You think I don't know that? Terry sighed, rubbing his jaw. All right, so what happens next? They keep hunting you until they win. Kira hesitated. Terry leaned forward. Or do we hit back? Kira stilled. Yeah, he murmured. That's what I thought. For the first time since meeting her, Kira looked uncertain. Terry let the silence stretch. He wasn't going to push. She'd get there, but they didn't have forever. That night Terry didn't sleep. Neither did Kira. They sat in silence. The enemy patrols had moved on, but that didn't mean they were safe. If what Kira said was true, if her people really had the technology to engineer their own kind, then whoever was chasing her wasn't just trained. They were built for this, and that meant Terry was outmatched. He exhaled, running a hand through his damp hair. We need to move before daylight. Kira nodded, still staring at the cave entrance. There's a ridge nearby, high ground. We'll be able to see if they've set up scanners. Terry pushed to his feet. Then we move now. Slipped into the forest. Keeping low, they moved faster, climbing the ridge. Terry's boots sank into the damp soil as he pushed through the undergrowth, branches clawing at his arms. Kira was right beside him. Then a rustle too loud. Terry barely had time to react before something slammed into him from the side, knocking him flat. Kira whirled, reaching for a weapon, but another figure emerged from the trees, tackling her before she could move. Terry twisted, trying to get to his feet, but a heavy boot pressed down on his chest, pinning him to the ground. Target acquired. A cold voice said. Terry's vision cleared, and he got his first good look at them. Chiron, humanoid like Kira, green-skinned, dark-haired, their bodies lean and powerful. Terry gritted his teeth. Engineered soldiers. Kira fought hard, but they had her pinned, forcing her arms behind her back. Resistance detected, one of them said, voice emotionless. Lethal force authorized. He shifted, feigning weakness, then exploded into motion. He grabbed the boot, pinning him, and twisted, sending the soldier off balance before the guy could recover. Terry surged upward, slamming his elbow into his attacker's jaw. The soldier barely reacted. Damn. Then Kira moved with a Sharp twist, she wrenched free, spinning into a brutal strike that sent one of the soldiers crashing into a tree. Terry followed her lead, ducking just as another soldier lunged for him. He slammed a fist into the guy's ribs, not much effect, but then he went lower, striking at the knee that worked. The soldier staggered and Terry drove his knife into the soft spot between his ribs. The Zirian gasped, eyes going wide, then slumped. Terry barely had time to process that before another one lunged. Kira grabbed the soldier mid-charge, flipping them over her shoulder and slamming them into the ground. They were winning. Then a sharp, piercing sound. Terry turned just in time to see the barrel of a weapon aimed right at Kira. No time to think, he moved. He slammed into Kira, knocking her aside. The shot fired white-hot. Pain exploded in Terry's arch beneath him, nails digging into his back. You feel her voice broke off into a sharp breath. Terry smiled. Say it. Kira's lips parted. Perfect. Terry groaned against her neck. Damn right. And they kept going like they had been waiting for this for far too long. When they finally collapsed together, bodies slick with sweat, chests rising and falling in sin, Terry let out a breathless chuckle. That was he exhaled. Damn. Kira smirked against his skin. Agreed. For a while neither of them moved. Then Kira propped herself up, brushing her fingers through his messy hair. What now, human? She murmured. Terry grinned, pulling her closer. Round two. Kira chuckled. Tempting. Terry smiled. Told you I could keep up. Kira kissed him again because he had. And she wasn't letting go anytime soon. For a moment he just breathed. After everything, the chase, the fight, the near-death escape, this moment felt surreal. Kira, powerful and untouchable, had let him in. Terry grinned, brushing his fingers down her spine. You still alive, or did I wear you out? Kira shifted against him. You wish, she murmured. Terry chuckled, running a hand through his disheveled hair. I don't know, seemed like you enjoyed yourself. Kira smirked. Maybe, but you're still human, limited stamina. Terry rolled his eyes. Pretty sure I just proved that wrong. Kira sat up, stretching her toned arms above her head. The movement sent a slow, distracting ripple down her body. Terry groaned, flopping back against the table. You're doing that on purpose? Kira arched a brow. What? Terry didn't have time to answer. The ship shuddered violently. Terry barely had time to grab the console before he was thrown sideways. Kira was already moving. She snapped to the controls. Weapons lock detected, she hissed. They found us. Terry pushed himself up, cursing. How the hell? Before he could finish, the ship rocked again. They're trying to disable us. Kira growled. Not destroy, they want us alive. More ships emerged from the darkness. They were surrounded. Kira bared her teeth. Not without a fight. She slammed a hand against the weapons panel. The ship's defense systems flared to life, plasma cannons locking onto the nearest enemy vessel. A second later she fired. A bright explosion tore through space as one of the Zyran ships spiraled out of control, debris scattering into the void. But there were too many. Terry's mind raced. They needed a way out, a plan. Then the ship lurched. A metallic clang echoed through the hull. Tarek's stomach dropped. They're boarding us. Kira's eyes flashed. She unholstered a sleek, curved blade from her belt. Let them cry. Terry reached for his own weapon, but before he could move, the cockpit doors exploded. A shock wave sent him flying, crashing hard against the floor. His vision blurred, ears ringing through the haze. He saw them, dozens of them. This wasn't a skirmish, it was an execution. Terry struggled to push himself up, but before he could move, a boot slammed into his ribs, pinning him down. Stay down, human. A voice commanded. Terry gritted his teeth, rage burning through him. Then he heard Kira. She f like hell. Two soldiers lunged at her. She cut one down before he could react, spinning into a brutal strike that sent the other crashing into the console. For a moment Terry thought she could win, but then one of the enforcers raised a weapon. A sharp, high-pitched whine filled the air. Kira stiffened, then she collapsed. Terry's breath caught. They had stunned her. His vision went red. He shoved at the soldier, pinning him, but the enforcer barely acknowledged his resistance. Kira lay motionless on the floor, her blade slipping from her fingers. A figure stepped forward. Azurin officer. He glanced at Terry with mild disinterest. Secure the target, he ordered. Terry snapped. He twisted violently, breaking free just long enough to grab a fallen weapon, but the officer barely reacted. He simply lifted a small device and pressed a button. Terry's world went black. Pain dragged Terry back to consciousness. Then he heard the voices, low murmurs, sharp whispers. Where the hell am I? His vision sharpened. A crowd, hundreds of Chiron, filled a vast open square, standing in rigid lines. Large monitors flickered overhead, displaying a looping message in their language. Then he realized he wasn't alone. Correo was beside him. Both of them were bound hands Tied behind their backs, ankles secured to the metal platform beneath them, heavy collars wrapped around their throats. Attached to thick cords that looped over reinforced beams, execution restraints. The bastards were going to hang them. The crowd wasn't shouting, they weren't angry, they just watched, cold, obedient. Conditioned, his mouth was gagged, preventing him from speaking. Kira too, she was awake. A figure stood before them. Elevated above the crowd, the commander, he stepped forward, addressing the gathered. Zyron, this is the cost of treason, he announced. His voice was deep, steady, unshaken. This is what happens to those who defy the will of the high rulers. A warrior who betrayed her own kind. He just gestured to Kira and the human who corrupted her mind. The commander turned to Kira. You were created for greatness, he said, yet you threw it away. For what? Emotion, individuality. Terry struggled against the ropes, but they were too tight. The commander exhaled sharply, as if Kira's resistance was inconvenient. He nodded to Aaron. Officer, finish it. A soldier stepped forward. The soldier reached for the lever that controlled the platform beneath them. Then a sharp snap. Terry turned just time to see Kira spit the gag from her mouth, and then she spoke. This is not betrayal, she snarled. This is rebellion. A ripple moved through the crowd. The commander's expression remained unreadable. Your words mean nothing. Kira's eyes burned. You all serve the high rulers, but have you ever asked why? Have you ever questioned their will, their orders? The crowd shifted. Not much, but enough. Kira's voice rose. You follow without question, you obey because they made you that way, because they took your choice from you. You think you're strong. She let out a sharp laugh. Your slaves. The commander's eyes darkened enough, but Kira didn't stop. They control your genetics, your minds, they took your will. And you let them. Commander turned to the soldier standing beside the execution lever. Do it. Then a single voice rang out. Stop. The crowd turned to Zurin near the front, an older male, his uniform crisp but war-worn. His hands trembled slightly. His eyes darted between Kira and the commander, and then more voices, murmurs. Uneasy, shifting. Terry's pulse kicked up. It's working. The commander's face hardened. This is treason, but the man in the crowd didn't back down. This is truth. He countered. Silence. This was it. This was the spark. The commander clenched his